Hello and welcome, this is Pam. Today I'm going to be discussing what I eat for breakfast, lunch, supper, and snacks also. And this is really the very best diet if you want to recover from multiple sclerosis or other chronic diseases. If we haven't met, my name is Pam Bartha, and I'm the author of Become a Wellness Champion and the founder of Live Disease Free. Over 35 years ago, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and I'm happy to share with you that by the grace of God and a lot of work on my part, I have been able to live free of multiple sclerosis for over 35 years now. And I'm going to share with you the best diet if you want to recover from multiple sclerosis or any other chronic disease. And I'm going to share with you why it is the best diet, and I'm going to really give you a lot of examples on what to eat, because this is really where people get stumped. So I wanted to give you some really clear ideas, lots of things you can write down, and I would really recommend that you make yourself a list and have it in the kitchen, because that way you can use that as a memory jogger, so that if you ever think like, I don't know what to cook, I'm not sure what we should eat, you can actually scan that list and it gives you lots of different ideas. So why is diet so important? I know it's a really popular topic with multiple sclerosis, but also other chronic diseases. The reason is that people do notice significant symptom improvements when they're following the right diet. And in my humble opinion, I've worked with thousands of people all over the world, helping them to recover from multiple sclerosis and other chronic diseases. And what I have discovered is that diet, the right diet, is really part of the foundation to have a successful recovery from different types of chronic diseases, multiple sclerosis included. And that if we don't spend a little bit of time following the right diet, then the treatment part just doesn't go very well, and people don't have the same success. So I've shared with you that there is abundant information that MS is an infectious disease caused by a parasitic infestation. There's tons of evidence. Go back and watch some of my older videos. You can go to our website, livediseasefree.com, to our blog, and you can look at the articles there, and you can just pick and choose topics. You can learn about the roundworms discovered in multiple sclerosis in the central nervous system, also tapeworm larvae and Borrelia and Candida, and also infections like malaria, babesia. So you'll see that there are many different microbes, pathogens, parasites that are involved with multiple sclerosis. So we call it dysbiosis. We're out of balance. We have too many disease-causing microbes and not enough health-promoting microbes. And in this situation, our immune system is no longer able to defend us from these infections, and then we end up getting really awful symptoms and we get a disease label. So this is why the diet is so important. And it's important just to quickly remind you what a parasite is. A parasite is any microbe that lives in you and causes you harm. So it's not just worms. Parasites can also be fungi, bacteria, and protozoa. Those are the four main categories of parasites. And if you've been following my work, you know what their preferred source of energy is. You can go ahead and type it in the question box or in the comment box. What is their favorite food? You know that. It is carbohydrates and simple sugars. Yes, absolutely. So when we eat a diet that is high in carbohydrates and processed carbs, then it feeds these infections. They are more active, they produce more poisons, and then we end up having more symptoms because we have more inflammation. So we know that multiple sclerosis and all other chronic diseases are inflammatory diseases, and so there's always inflammation involved. And by definition, I shared with you, I think last week or the week before, again, just do a Google search and look for the definition of inflammation. Your immune system is fighting some type of pathogen, parasite, microbe, and that is what inflammation is. And what is the job of the immune system is to go after parasites, to go after infectious pathogens. So all of this is well known, but for some reason, our healthcare professionals, they're not able to connect these dots. I don't know why. The benefit of the Live Disease-Free diet is that it's really reducing food to those infections that are causing all of the inflammation in our body, making us sick, giving us all the symptoms. When you decrease the food to them, but you're still feeding the body with a lot of nutrition, then you'll notice you just start to feel a lot better. So what is the best diet to follow when you want to recover from MS or any other kind of disease? Because again, there are so many different types of diets. And so which diet is the best? There's paleo, there's keto, there's Mediterranean, there's autoimmune, and all of these different diets, they have their pros and cons, but most people that I've talked to have followed various diets like this and they're still sick. So you want to pick a diet, again, understanding what's going on in your body, right? You're dealing with parasites, and that's the really important thing. So if you are following a keto diet, it's definitely more helpful. It's low carb. But the problem is that with a keto diet, you can still have a lot of dairy, and the dairy will actually feed the problem, and it'll bother your immune system for various reasons we won't go into. But we know that whenever we have chronic disease, that dairy just doesn't work very well, and gluten. So, and then with the paleo, it is definitely better, but it's still too high carb. So when you get a little bit lower, kind of in between the paleo and the ketogenic diet, like we have found around 30 to 40 total grams of carbs per day, that's really the sweet spot where people really start to notice a lot of symptom improvements. If you're dealing with inflammation and possibly chronic disease, or maybe you've had a disease diagnosis, then we relate that to parasites in the body. And yes, we have to do heavy metal detox, we have to do all these other things, but we have to address the parasites because that's the biggest cause of our symptoms and chronic disease in general. So that is why it is so important to follow a diet like the Live Disease-Free diet, because it's proven. We've had thousands of people all over the world using it, a lot of people that I don't even know. We have healthcare professionals that are handing out our cheat sheet, which you can find on our website, the guidelines and the cheat sheet. And I'm really excited about that. I'm really happy about that. So it's there for people to use as a resource. So this is something that you don't even have to pay for a program. You can start to implement this diet right away. Again, go to livediseasefree.com. In the main menu, click on research. You'll find the Live Disease-Free diet guidelines and the cheat sheet, and you can go over that. So I have just maybe 3 weeks ago, I talked about the Live Disease-Free diet guidelines, but today I'm going to give you some actual ideas of what I eat during the day, like every day. And that'll help you so that you have some more clarity on how to follow the plan. So it is very important that we want to optimize nutrition, right? Because our food is very deficient in nutrients with the factory farming type practices, but also our diet. Like a lot of us, we're not eating a lot of vegetables, and the vegetables have a lot of vitamins and minerals and fiber for promoting the health promoting microbes, which we want to reestablish in our body. So it's very important that we do avoid all dairy products, and that's why the ketogenic diet, that's one of the things we have to be aware of. If we were following the keto diet, butter is fine, but all other dairy products, while we are recovering from parasites, it's really important to avoid. And so we want to avoid any foods that will stimulate the parasites. So caffeine will stimulate us, but it will also stimulate the parasites. So we want to avoid anything with caffeine in it. So the Live Disease-Free diet, it is sugar-free, dairy-free, caffeine-free, alcohol-free, and grain-free. All right, but there's lots of food that we can eat, and I'm going to share that with you right away. Again, you can find all of the guidelines on our website, livediseasefree.com. So if you can't afford to lose weight, like some of us are underweight, the parasites often make it difficult for us to digest our food and absorb our nutrition. They're freeloaders, are eating a lot of our calories. And so if we're underweight, then it's very important we don't lose any more weight. So as we are decreasing the calories of carbohydrates, we are increasing the calories of healthy fats, especially the healthy fats. So if we take in equal calories to what we burn, we will maintain our weight. If we take less calories into our body every day than we use, then we will lose weight. And if we eat more calories than we need, we will gain weight. So the key is, if you don't want to lose weight, you have to, as you're decreasing the carbohydrates, you have to make sure you're adding enough healthy fat. And that would equate to at least 4 tablespoons of fat with each meal. And some of you might be thinking, Pam, that's going to give me heart disease. It's going to give me cholesterol issues, or maybe you have cholesterol issues. Well, check out the work of Dr. Mercola and Dr. Perlmutter is a really good one, because that's kind of his expertise. And you'll see that when we have higher cholesterol, that is caused by inflammation in our blood vessels. And so our body is producing cholesterol to protect the inflamed blood vessels. And how do we get that inflammation in our blood vessels? It's by eating too many processed carbohydrates, which feeds infections that could be located in our blood vessels, and then we end up with higher cholesterol. So when you are decreasing the food to those parasites, because they don't really love fat, we notice that cholesterol normalizes, blood pressure normalizes, so many things normalize, because a lot of these symptoms we're dealing with are caused by these infections, and that is what's causing the inflammation. So it's very, very important to make sure that we are decreasing the carbs to that target zone of 30 to 40 total grams of carbs per day. And if we can't afford to lose weight, that we are making sure we're eating enough. You can't skip meals. You can't skip snacks. Isn't that funny? It's a totally different diet. It's like normally we're trying to lose weight, a lot of us, and so we are skipping meals and snacks and we're starving to death. Well, with this diet, you have to eat even when you're not hungry, or you could lose weight, which some of you might not want to. If you do want to lose weight, it's not something we focus on. It's just a benefit, a bonus. As you're getting healthy, it's fine to just maybe don't have quite as much fat with your meal. Make sure you still eat regularly so you have strength and you don't want to lose muscle mass. But the key is we're focusing on health. And then if we want to lose weight, it's pretty easy to do. And if you want to make sure to keep your weight, you have to increase your fat calories as you decrease your carbohydrates. And don't skip meals or snacks, or you will lose weight very, very easily. If you are suffering with inflammatory bowel disease, irritable bowel disease, or maybe you just know, Pam, whenever I eat vegetables, I'm really gassy and it just irritates me, bothers me, maybe it gives you diarrhea. So if that's the case, then eat the vegetables that are low carb, that agree with you, right? We could be sensitive to like kale, like some random vegetable when we have the leaky gut. So just make sure to eat the vegetables that agree with you, and it's absolutely fine to cook the vegetables that agree with you. So that is steaming, sautéing, oven roasting, or stir frying vegetables that agree with you. So those would be like, you'll see on the cheat sheet all of the low carb vegetables that you can eat. And there's tons of them. There's the cruciferous vegetables like broccoli and cauliflower and cabbage. Just be careful with cabbage, not too much. And same with Brussels sprouts. They're a little higher in carbs, so have a small serving of those. But beans, the yellow and green string beans and asparagus, and the Chinese vegetables like bok choy and su choy, there's tons of vegetables that we can eat. So we'll talk more about like what we can do with them in a few minutes, but I'll just carry on with this first. So listen to your body with the diet. If something doesn't agree with you, don't eat it. And again, it's fine to cook your vegetables if necessary. And if you're following the diet properly and you've got the carbs low enough, you can start to notice significant symptom improvements in as little as 1 to 2 weeks. It's crazy. This is not a drug. This is not an expensive drug. This is something that you can just do on your own and you can start to feel better. But again, you want to get down to the 30 to 40 total grams of carbs per day. For sure under 50. If you're over 50, you're not going to notice any improvements because the parasites can live on the normal blood sugar that you have. So even if you decrease the carbs a bit, your body will still maintain a certain blood sugar level, and the parasites can easily live off of that. But the nice thing is, following this diet, you're not having the ups and downs of blood sugar. You're keeping your blood sugar steady and maybe just a slightly below normal, but still in the range. We're not worried about ketosis. We're not measuring our ketones. We're not doing anything like that. We're just basically still in the normal range, but on the low or lower, below average normal range. And this diet has helped people with not just multiple sclerosis, but if you start to do some digging, you'll see that there are TED Talks about people that have had cancer, and low carb is so incredibly helpful for cancer, for different types of conditions like autism and epilepsy, multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's, diabetes. It's huge for diabetes. So there's, you just name the autoimmune disease, go low carb, and you will notice symptom improvements because these are all infectious diseases. They're all caused by different microbes in the body. And yes, that is the big deception in healthcare. It's just so frustrating. There is a free app on your phone called the Chronometer app. And on that app, you can actually type in what you've eaten in the day, during the day. You can set it so that it's measuring total grams of carbs, not net. You want the total grams of carbs. And then you can check your work. You can see if you are in that 30 to 40 total grams of carb target, if you've reached that. And so our students, they share that they have improved energy when they're following this diet. Also, their brain fog can start to clear, their bladder improves, and that means that they're not getting up many times throughout the night. So maybe they were getting up 5 or 6 times throughout the night, and then once they start to follow this diet, within a couple of weeks, they're getting up maybe once or twice. That means they're sleeping a lot more. That means they feel more rested in the morning, and it just helps a whole bunch of other symptoms. So directly and indirectly. Also, their sleep improves, their mood improves, they feel happier, they feel less anxious, they have less spasticity and less pain, and they have more strength, all just by following this diet. And the key is to get the carbs low enough. And it is important to remember that diet and exercise are not going to cure us, right? We have to treat the parasites also, but diet, the right diet, is the first step in recovery. It is laying a foundation for success. Really important. Like, I sound like a broken record, but it is so vitally important. And healthcare professionals that ignore this. So like, I was talking with one young lady today, and she's been really, really sick. She was a super healthy person before, and then she was healthy, but she did have parasites. She had symptoms from when she was young, but she was still managing them well. Certain things happened in her life where her immune system became overtaxed, and then she went downhill. So the parasites were basically taking over. And she has done just about everything, with going to, with different doctors and different tests and different treatments and different supplements. And she's never treated the parasites. She is eating high carb. And it's so brutal, that this is not well known, especially the diet part, because that's something so simple that practitioners their patients can have improvements right away. And that is going to make the treatments work better. They're going to tolerate the treatments better. So very, very important. The diet is super important. But again, if we want the highest quality of life, we definitely still have to treat the parasites. Because if we eat a little bit too many grams of carbs, it's kind of like putting gas on a fire again, and then the parasites will be more active, and then we will have more symptoms. So everything I'm sharing with you is for educational purposes. It is not intended to replace the necessary measures from your healthcare professional. I'm just teaching you how to play an active role in your healthcare so that you can reach your health goals. So the diet, the Live Disease Free diet, we are having 3 meals a day. We're having 2 snacks. Some people need to do 4 meals a day. If you are a gentleman and you work, let's say you have a disease, but you're still doing construction work, you might have to have 4 meals a day. That's totally fine. But you're eating regularly and you're keeping your blood sugar steady. That's the nice thing about when you're having fat and protein with every meal with the low-carb vegetables, but it's the fat and protein that keep your blood sugar steady. So this is going to help you to get off of the processed carbs that, give you the headache and the swings, the cravings. And if you can just follow the plan and you keep your blood sugar steady, you maybe within a week's time, you'll be going, okay, I'm over the worst of it, right? And these parasites and also the sugars themselves can cause us to have it's almost like a drug addiction, the cravings for sugar. And again, that is the preferred favorite food for these parasites. So we're eating often, we're eating really nutritious, dense food. We're keeping our blood sugar steady, which is a really important thing for health and longevity. And we're having moderate amounts of animal protein with every meal to maintain our muscle mass. We're having enough healthy fats with each meal to maintain our weight. And we're working up to 9 to 13 servings of vegetables. Again, working up to, some of us are like, Pam, I don't eat vegetables. I haven't eaten vegetables for years. That's part of the reason why you're probably sick. But so what we're doing is we are introducing them, and they have to be low carb. And we are, again, listen to your body. If you don't tolerate raw vegetables, you're just bringing in the ones that you do tolerate, and you can cook them. It's fine. But you'll notice that the diarrhea, the gas, the bloating, all of that stuff is going to just become quiet because the parasites are going to be more quiet. They produce the gas, they produce the bloating. That is called fermentation when they are eating carbohydrates. So we are working up to the 9 to 13 servings of vegetables per day. And so we're having our plate is not just a little bit on a plate. We're having a plate full of food. And then we're dousing it with lots of fat. So it might be 4+ tablespoons of healthy fat. That could be butter. It could be ghee, extra virgin olive oil, avocado oil, organic coconut. All these should be organic, cold pressed. Coconut oil is fine too. So all of these are perfectly fine to have. They are healthy. They're going to give you energy. They're going to help give you calories so that you can maintain your weight. And MCT oil also I wanted to mention. That's another one. A good quality MCT oil. It doesn't really have any flavor, and it can also give you more calories and more energy. Some people even put it on their salad. Some people put it in their tea. It doesn't taste like anything, and it just gives you more energy and calories. All right, let's talk about what I eat for meals. So with breakfast, when I get out of bed and then I'm starting to get ready, I will have my fruit. So I'll have, and to be quite honest, I have recovered from multiple sclerosis, so I eat a little bit more carbs than what I'm sharing with you. I still follow the diet quite closely, but I don't have to, so I can have a little bit more carbs. And you can too once you get well. I still choose to eat quite closely to the guidelines and what I'm sharing with you because it makes me feel good. And I have a very busy life. I am coaching many students all over the world. I have 7 grandchildren, 1 more coming. And they're all young. They're all under the age of 10. And then I also have animals. So I'm outside shoveling manure before work and, feeding the animals. So I'm just go, 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 go. And so that is why I really love my life. I'm so grateful that I have recovered from MS. I'm so grateful that I'm able to help others, and I want to do all of this. And so I choose to eat pretty clean because it gives me that stamina and energy, and it discourages parasites. And of course, I'm exposed to a lot of parasites too out here because of all the animals, and they're just part of life. We've talked lots about that. So with breakfast, I still do this. It's been a habit for many years. I'll have a piece of fruit 30 minutes before breakfast, at least. Usually it's a little bit longer because I'm getting ready. And so On the diet, it would be like a very small kiwi. It would be like a quarter cup or an eighth of a cup of berries. Remember that even blueberries are quite high in sugar. So you want it's like a taste when you're in the recovery phase. It's kind of like you're just having a little fresh taste in the morning. Some people will actually just have no fruit at the start because they're like so sick and they want to see the best results. So they'll just say, well, I don't need that sugar. Even though it's fruit sugar, I don't want it. And so you can skip it. That's totally fine. And you can have a little bit of vitamin C in your supplement. So it could be a half a green apple, a small kiwi, or a very small amount of berries, which are a little bit lower in sugar than things like watermelon and cantaloupe and other fruit. And then I will have breakfast. And so with breakfast, I'm just a creature of habit. So what I do is I really like eggs. We have chickens here, so I will cook a couple of eggs, and I usually just do them, like sunny side up, but they're steamed a little bit. Like I put a little bit of water in when they're frying on a not too high of a heat, so they're not slimy at all. And so I'll have a couple of eggs, and I'll have a plate full of greens with that. So greens. So I will switch different greens. So arugula is quite common that I'll have arugula. Baby kale is wonderful. If it is like mature kale that's kind of tough, I will saute that with some onions. And there is also sometimes just green lettuce, but it's mostly like arugula and kale. Could be spinach, could be any type of greens. So I'll have a very significant plate full of greens with a couple of eggs. I usually cut up my eggs on top of that and I pour olive oil on top of that. I don't even have lemon juice on for breakfast or lime juice. That'll be it. And then what's really nice is to have a little bit of raw sauerkraut with that. So that's just like if you're going to start with it, start with small amounts. You can purchase it in grocery stores in the refrigerated section. Costco even has it in Canada. Costco sells, it's called wild brined. And so you can use that. Just know that when you're feeling strong enough that you can make your own homemade sauerkraut, that is the most health promoting food you could ever eat. Because when you take the organic vegetables and you chop them up fine and you let them ferment, so you're allowing the natural occurring health promoting microbes that are living on those vegetables to multiply and multiply and multiply, you're getting this concentrated dose of health promoting diverse, like many kinds of health promoting microbes that we don't even know what they are. And that is really helping to repopulate your intestines, your ecosystem, your natural defense. So that is super healthy and super important when you can start to do that. Again, that is probably the greatest practice that you can do. And raw sauerkraut is tolerated by most people. But just start slowly. Like start with like a half a teaspoon and increase it slowly. Like a lot of us that have parasites, we have histamine intolerance, we have mast cell activation syndrome, all kinds of things. And that's all just our immune system is overburdened by these parasites. So that will be my breakfast, and I'll just have that big plateful. If I ever have like there's leftover olive oil on the plate, I'll use a spoon and I'll scoop it up because that is calories, and olive oil is not cheap these days, is it? So I will just make sure I have that. So that keeps me satisfied very often till lunchtime because I'm usually sitting for several hours. Like I'll normally have my fruit, I'll go out and feed the animals, and then I'll come back in and I'll eat breakfast, and then I'm good for at least 2 or 3 hours till lunchtime. But if you're having breakfast earlier and you get hungry by mid-morning, then what is a really great practice is to cut up a whole bunch of vegetables and make a tub of them once a week in the fridge. Really good ones would be celery and cucumbers, but you could put a little bit of carrots and peppers, like don't have servings of them, but just maybe like one piece with your snack. But the cucumbers and the celery are really nice and low carb. And even the green string beans, like if they're good quality, you can have a couple of those. They taste really good, crunchy if they're not tough. So if you have a really big tub of vegetables and then you make homemade mayonnaise and then you have that for a snack, people love it. Our students absolutely love it. You can make a spicy mayo. That's my favorite. Just adding some like red, make sure it doesn't have any sugar or vinegar, but just like red chili, liquid chili, it's not liquid, but you know what I mean? It's just like a red chili sauce. You can get it, I don't know if it's like sambal, That's one brand. But you can purchase that. You could add red pepper flakes to it. I guess I like adding just the chili into it. And it's so make sure it's not the chili sauce that has sugar in it, because that is not going to be your friend. But some people like to make a ranch dressing where they add herbs to it. So there's lots of different varieties. Sometimes you can make a Caesar salad dressing with that mayonnaise recipe, like a creamy Caesar salad dressing. So the mayonnaise really gives you a lot more calories, and that'll help you to maintain your weight. So remember, we're kind of going away from things that are carbohydrate. So we would not do nut butters, because nut butters are really high in carbohydrates. They are harder to digest. So it's better to skip nut butters and have homemade mayonnaise instead. Also guacamole. Guacamole is dangerous. It's really good. It's really addicting. It's really healthy. Better when you have recovered. So things like the mayonnaise, it's tolerated really well, and it will give you the calories. It will make you feel full. It's enjoyable and super healthy, and it's not going to feed the parasites. So you'll still continue to feel better. So with breakfast, it's really important to have animal protein and healthy fat to start your day, getting your blood sugar steady, right? And then you're eating regularly throughout the day to have your blood sugar steady. And that will help you to feel better also. If you can't eat all organic, don't worry about it. Like, try to get whatever you can organic, but honestly, it's getting so ridiculously expensive with everything. And a lot of our students, if they don't have access to good quality organic, then they just buy the best food that they can. In the summer, I don't even go into the big grocery stores. I go to our local farmers, and I just go once a week, and I just load up, and my fridge is packed with maybe 2 or 3 heads of lettuce, and just like it's full of vegetables, broccoli, cauliflower. People have always like smiled when I buy stuff, because they're always like, how many people are you buying this for? And it's like, oh, my husband and I. So we eat a lot of vegetables, and even asparagus is fine. So just make sure that you purchase the vegetables in as close to their natural state as possible. If you're quite disabled, then it's hard to cook. You could have vegetables delivered, your produce and your meat, your groceries delivered. You can also purchase different types of greens in these plastic tubs, but be very careful that you check the best before date, and don't eat them if the greens are black and slimy, because that is bacteria and it can make you very sick. So avoid any vegetables that are like brown and rotting, because when we have a lot of parasites, like we're so sick and we're infested, we don't need to be bringing in some more bacteria, bad bacteria. So, and if you can't eat eggs, because some people are allergic to eggs, then what some of our students might do is make a batch of patties, and you can put whatever spices you like in them. You can make them out of pork, out of chicken, out of turkey, out of beef. You can make a big batch, freeze them. You can make meatballs. You can just have leftovers for breakfast. Like, you could do the meatballs or the patties with the greens and the olive oil and some sauerkraut, or you can just, maybe you cooked a big stir fry the night before and you just want to have some stir fry for breakfast. I've stir fried vegetables for breakfast too, and it's delicious. And so when we cook, we do batch cooking. So on the weekend, or when I'm not as busy, I will throw like 2 chickens in the oven, and I'll cook a few different things, so that when we're going through the week and we're really busy, then it's like a really quick grab and make meals really quickly. So if you, let's say, have a big stir fry in the fridge, and you've got a couple of cooked chickens in the fridge, and maybe you made hamburger soup, so you've got 3 or 4 meals, and then it can get you through most of the week, and you don't have to do a lot of cooking, and then you can have whatever for breakfast that you want. Maybe you can't eat eggs. So with eggs, we can do poached eggs, we can do omelets, we can do scrambled eggs, boiled eggs. There's many different options. I usually just fry them because of time. We talked about the snacks. If you don't tolerate the raw vegetables very well, then you can like slightly steam the vegetables, and you can still dip them in mayonnaise, and that still tastes really good too. Be really careful with nuts and seeds. So on the shopping list, it lists which nuts you could have. But if you're going to have nuts and seeds, just have them raw, have them good quality. You can oven roast them yourself, but don't eat any that have like some kind of sugar on them. Just make sure that they are naturally oven roasted. With plain sea salt is fine, but again, sometimes they add a little bit of sugar to the sea salt. So I like just getting bags of nuts from Costco, throwing them in the freezer, and then just having them nice and fresh, taking a little bit out at a time. But if you're eating nuts and seeds, make sure that you're having a very small amount. So that's like 1/8 of a teaspoon. It's just like a little taste, and that would be a snack mid-morning or mid-afternoon, but don't eat it at night before bed because they're harder to digest, and then that becomes food for the parasites in your intestines. Some people avoid nuts altogether because they're like, I can't control myself. I overeat nuts, so I'm just not even going to eat them. And they find that they improve, their health improves so much more that way. Lunch. So what I have for lunch is pretty much the same every day. I mean, sometimes I'll have leftovers in the fridge from one of the meals. Like we'll usually have 2 or 3 different meals, and I might have that. But usually it is a large salad. So it'll be a plate full of greens, and I will have low-carb vegetables on there. I'll have a little bit of onion. I do like the sweet onions. They're not like sweet, but they're just not hot. So we'll get those from Costco, and we get usually the peppers and the cucumbers and all of that there from Costco also. So, or Superstore, one of the two. So number one is be very careful with things like peppers and tomatoes, carrots and avocados. You can have those as a garnish on your salad, but don't have like a 1/2 cup of carrots or a 1/2 cup of peppers, like a serving, because although they are acceptable on the diet, they're still a lot higher in natural sugar and carbohydrates. So we're just putting a sprinkle for interest on our salad. The cucumber is fine, celery is fine, cauliflower, broccoli, all of those is fine. And you can have them raw or cooked. Like sometimes I'll have leftover beans in the fridge and I'll throw that on top of my salad, or there's a little bit of cooked broccoli and I'll throw that on top of my salad too. So there is no rhyme or reason. It's like, oh, I got to clean this up. You know, it's been 3 days in the fridge and I should eat it. So it's really good to just not waste anything because groceries are so expensive these days. And another thing you can do on the salads too to make it fun is you can add any kind of live herbs. So it could be parsley, it could be cilantro, could be whatever you like, thyme, oregano, rosemary, whatever you have available. You can add a little bit onto your salad, whatever you like. And like thyme and rosemary are incredibly antimicrobial. Like they're very, very anti-parasitic. I mean, they're not going to get rid of tapeworms and flukes, but they definitely are antagonistic. They're not going to benefit the infections inside of our body. Sometimes it's nice to use a different, more creamy dressing, like a Caesar salad dressing. So you can take your mayonnaise recipe and you can add a little bit to it. You could add garlic to it. You can add whatever spices. You can add anchovy paste. Just make sure there's nothing in it. A little bit is pretty strong. And so you can make a really lovely Caesar salad dressing. Also, there is like tabbouleh salad, and you can find that which is grain-free. So you can just look for a recipe. That's what I do. I just go online and I just look for the best hamburger soup recipe. I have my own hamburger soup recipe, but I just looked up the best grain-free tabbouleh recipe and found that. And that's just like a parsley. And so they just basically don't put in, I think it's like bulgur or quinoa. They just keep that out and it's delicious. I was actually at family for a little birthday party for my niece. It's actually my nephew's child, so just a little 2-year-old. And she made this and it was so delicious because I'm like, oh, I forgot all about this and I haven't had it for so long. And so I ate a whole bunch of it, and parsley is so incredibly healthy for us. I mean, try to get organic if you can. If maybe you can grow it also, grow it in your garden. But it is a really tasty, tasty thing to eat for a little side dish. I probably wouldn't eat a plate full of it, but I'd have like a side serving of that, and it was delicious. And parsley is super healthy. Also, taco salad, that's really popular with us too, is just have your plate of greens with the vegetables on top. So you can have, again, the garnish of the peppers, you can have garnish of tomato, and you can have a little bit of onion on there, and you can add the taco meat. We'll talk about in a minute the taco meat that I make. I don't even have a recipe. I just kind of do it by taste. And so I'm over 60 and I've had kids and grandkids, and I've done a lot of cooking. So then you kind of get used to things, right? As far as what works and what doesn't. So a taco salad is really satisfying too. And then with animal protein, with my lunch, like I don't just have a salad without animal protein. For women, maybe around 3 to 4 ounces of animal protein with every meal. For men, maybe 4 to 5 to 6 ounces of animal protein. I kind of eat when I feel satisfied, and that's usually 3 to 4 ounces. So whenever I'm satisfied, I know what to put on my salad. So fresh herbs we talked about. I really like fresh lemon and fresh lime juice the best. So you could make up your own recipe of a salad dressing where you're adding the olive oil and the lemon juice, but I personally just like to put olive oil on and put some lemon juice on. If you don't tolerate olive oil, it's fine to use MCT oil, or to use avocado oil would be acceptable. Butter is okay. So I would put the olive oil on my salad, but if I had, let's say, a little bit of steak on the side, or you can always put some butter on that also, just melt some butter on it. It's delicious. And then afternoon, you can just do a snack like in the morning. If you are even hungry, if you want the calories, you can have leftovers. So you could just get some more vegetables out with mayonnaise. It is really delicious. I don't get sick of that at all. Homemade mayonnaise with like spicy mayo is absolutely delicious. And actually one year, my son-in-law, who's a chef, he did deep fried Brussels sprouts with spicy mayo, and that was absolutely delicious. And then another time he did shrimp with spicy mayo. He's quite the chef. Supper. So supper, I kind of like to have a warm supper, and we'll have like 1 or 2 warm vegetables usually. We could do a taco salad, but if I do a taco salad, like I'll take the hamburger and I will cook the hamburger, brown it a little bit so it has more flavor. And then let's say for each pound of beef, because we usually do at least a couple of pounds of beef because we want leftovers. So we will add just under a teaspoon of salt. Just look up a recipe, but I add salt and pepper, I add cumin and paprika, chili powder, and oregano. So those are the main ones that I add, and red pepper flakes because we like things a little spicy. So that is delicious. So I'll brown the meat, then I will add the spices on it. Oh, and garlic, of course, and onion. And that's the thing I found with hamburger meat, is that if you add onion, that's like chop it up really fine, and you cook the onion with the hamburger, it makes the hamburger more moist and not as dry. It is delicious. So that is how we make that, and I'll just simmer that for a while in the spices. It's absolutely delicious. So again, garlic and onions are really important in there. Hamburger patties, we usually do them on the barbecue. Right now it's almost 20 below at night in Canada, so don't really want to use the barbecue that much. So I literally just put them in the oven. I haven't done that for years, or I don't even know if I've ever done that before. So I just made hamburger patties myself. So I used, again, we do at least 2 pounds of meat, and I just put an egg in to help hold it together. 2 eggs, 1 egg per pound. And then I added in chopped onions and chopped fresh garlic. And then I just add a lot of basil, and that is delicious. And so I just made a bunch of patties, and we baked them in the oven at 375 for probably about 20 minutes. I just looked up online how to do that. And then another one is meatloaf. So that's another. So I'm going to go through like hamburger first. So some different ideas with hamburger because it's a little bit more cost effective for beef. So we really love meatloafs. And so I'll do like 2 big meatloafs, and then I will freeze one of them, or I'll cut them in half and just freeze half of them, like maybe keep one half out, or maybe keep the whole one out and then freeze the other one. And this is a recipe from my dad, salt and pepper, and he likes to crunch up bay leaves. So I just take a bay leaf, depending on how much meat, and I just crumple it really small in my fingers, and I sprinkle that on, and cloves. So cloves and bay leaf and salt and pepper, and of course eggs, like 2 eggs to hold it together, and that's it. And it's delicious. It's really, really good. Hamburger soup. So a lot of the soups I'll talk about, to be careful, because that can actually make people's symptoms worse. But I have found, back when I still had a lot more parasites, that I still tolerated hamburger soup quite well. And I don't know if it's because it's the beef or if it's because it's not cooked as long as other broths. But I'll take, again, about 2 pounds of hamburger, brown it, and then add some water to it and simmer that for at least half an hour so that the broth has some flavor in it, some meat flavor. And just make sure that you get all the dark stuff off the bottom of the pan, and that goes into the soup. Tastes good. Cook it for about half an hour. I'll saute onions and celery and carrots, and with the soup I'll make it really chunky. It has a lot, so I don't like a soup that's like mostly meat. I like to have a lot of vegetables with it. So I will cook or saute up some onions and celery and some carrots. And again, it'll be a lot more celery than carrots, just a little bit of carrots, mostly celery. And then I'll look in the fridge, and whatever I have, there could be some green beans that we cooked that were just left over. I'll chop them up, throw them in at the end because they're cooked already. Maybe there's some cauliflower, maybe there's some broccoli. So whatever I have left over in the fridge, I throw that in. And that's why hamburger soup is so great, because you can just, at the end of the week, clean out the fridge so you don't waste anything, right? It's really important not to waste food because it is so expensive these days. So, and then once the broth with the hamburger has cooked for about half an hour to 45 minutes, then I will add the vegetables in, and then I really like to either finish it with one or the other. So I'll put in fresh ginger, or I will use dill. And for the dill, what I do is I take fresh dill in the summer. So we have local farms, and I just chop up the dill, and I fill a few quart jars with dill that's just chopped up, and I keep it in the freezer. So I might have 3 or 4 quart jars of chopped up dill, and it's so incredibly fresh. It's just like you have it fresh from the garden. It's so lovely. So that's what I use for hamburger soup. And when I'm cooking, I should say, the hamburger broth, it's got salt and pepper. We do like the herb blend. It's called Herbamare, and you can get it in grocery stores and health food stores and specialty stores. It's called Herbamare. Delicious seasoning salt, very healthy and clean. And that just adds body again to the hamburger soup, because it's not a strong broth. I haven't added any other broth to it, but it is enough that it tastes really good. So my husband might add Worcestershire sauce into it, but I don't. And the hamburger soup is always a big hit. And then let's go on to some steak and other beef. So barbecued steak is not as often. We don't have it as often, but it still is delicious. Salt and pepper, we barbecue it. And of course, at the end, we'll melt butter on top of it and just put a little bit of chopped fresh garlic on top of that also. It's delicious. You can make your own chimichurri. We do have a recipe. If you just do chimichurri and live disease-free, you'll find it on one of our holiday meal idea pages. It's delicious. So it's something that that it's higher in fat and it's got fresh herbs in it, and it really just adds some oomph to your food. It's absolutely delicious. I learned this from my daughter-in-law, just taking a blade roast and putting it in like a pot that has a lid on it, like a heavier pot, and baking it in the oven or cooking it in the oven, low heat for probably 4 to 5 hours. And it comes out like really tender, like pulled beef. It's just delicious. And she just said, just rub it with salt and pepper. That's it. I can't remember if it was that coarse salt, like the kosher salt, I think it is. So that's delicious. And then you can have a whole bunch of meat for different things, right? And then roasts are good. If you cook a roast or you cook a couple of, we'll cook 2 chickens at one time or a roast, and then we'll have all kinds of leftovers for different meals, for putting on salads, for warm or cold. it's so great. So with any roast, I will first brown them really well, add salt and pepper, brown them, and then I will, if it's kind of a tougher roast, I'll put it in a pot with a little bit of water at the bottom and a lid, and then that way it'll steam it a little bit while it's cooking, and at usually like 350. You could, if you want to do, if it's a better quality roast, then do it a little lower temperature. But that is great. We've done brisket on the Traeger. I just didn't even put it in my list here, but it's so delicious. And it's literally like salt and pepper and garlic, I think, is all that's on it. And you rub it the night before, and then you put it on the Traeger and you let it smoke for, well, we had a lot of company over Christmas, so we did a huge one on the Traeger, and it smoked from midnight until, I don't know, 12 o'clock the next day, and then you wrap it up and then you let it go. It's really low temperature, like you have it at 250 or something like that. And that was absolute, like the men were just going crazy over it. And that was salt and pepper and garlic. I'm sure there was nothing else to that. Really delicious. So roasts are great. Again, lots of leftovers. You can fry them up. You can make a broccoli, onions and broccoli stir fry. You can put them in different stir fries. Bok choy is a great, we'll talk about a few vegetables in a minute, but bok choy is a great vegetable, delicious, low carb. You can do chicken or beef fajitas, so where you can do it either in a cast iron pan where you just slice up the meat really fine, and you can put the spices on the meat, let it marinate for 15 minutes, and then you can just fry it up quickly, or you can use a sheet pan in the oven, and then you can also cook some peppers and onions. So if you're having, let's say, a big taco salad, you can still put a little bit of peppers and onions on there that are sauteed for the fajita, and they taste delicious, and then have the meat on there. But just don't go overboard. Don't have a huge amount of peppers, because there will be more natural sugars in that. I just made a pot of stew last weekend. I made a huge pot, enough for my son and his family and us. And so I just took like a big pack of stew meat from Costco, and we cut it into smaller pieces because we've got young grandchildren, and fried it up. And I had to use 2 different big frying pans, fried that up, threw it back together in a big pot, added some water, let it simmer, brought it to a boil, let it simmer for, I can't remember if it was like maybe an hour or so. You just have to check, depends on how tough the meat is. So then once the meat is tender, and you've got all that lovely gravy with the meat, then I added in the carrots, not a ton, but carrots, celery. Sorry, let me backtrack. I always do it separately. I sauteed the onions in a separate pan, added the celery. I added a little bit of rutabaga and a little bit of parsnip and a little bit of carrots. And then again, whatever we have in the fridge, like green beans, or just when you're sick, just be careful you don't put too many root vegetables in, because that you will notice it. The parasites will like the starchy vegetables. So I kept the potatoes out, because I know some of my grandkids don't like potatoes, and I know for me, I still don't eat a lot of potatoes, so I kept that out. But I did cook some potatoes, cut them up in small pieces, and then whoever wanted them in their stew could add it. So once all the meat was simmered in the water, which turned into really delicious broth, then I added all the vegetables in, and then I used herb de Provence, I think it's what it's called, a really nice blend of herbs. I made it myself, and I've also bought that blend of herbs myself, and I just sprinkle a bunch in, just taste it, just put some in, taste it, and if you want it more stronger or not, but it's delicious. And so that was a big hit. So that gives you some different beef ideas. Shish kebabs are a really nice thing in the summertime when it's nice and warm outside. Let's talk about chicken. So a real standby at our house is just taking 2 chickens and putting them in the oven at 350 degrees for about 2 hours. I will rinse them off. Then I will put them in a big pan. And I don't even put a rack underneath them, because that's an extra thing to wash. But I will sprinkle on them, like first salt and pepper, And I really love thyme and rosemary. So I'll put lots of thyme and rosemary. I might sprinkle a little bit of paprika on it. I might sprinkle a little bit of onion powder or garlic powder. Just be careful with those kind of things that sometimes they will have fillers in them. So just whatever, like when you are really sick, you want to make sure there's no contamination with anything, because the parasites don't need a lot to make them more active, to make you notice you have more burning or tingling or different symptoms. So really important to make sure that your herbs, if you're using blends of herbs, that they are pure and they don't have fillers in them, binders, etc. Traeger chicken is really good. So I'll go online and I'll just make my own rub where you mix all these different spices together, like cumin and chili powder and paprika and onion powder, or garlic, I should say, garlic and salt and pepper. And so just look for recipes where they have a lot of 5 out of 5, like 200 5 out of 5 really popular recipes. Make your own chicken rub them, put them on the Traeger, and that they're so juicy. It's like an hour and 15 minutes on high, and it just locks the juice in them, like even more than cooking. But I still do like oven roasted chicken. My husband the men are the Traeger guys, right? So chicken on the Traeger is great. Barbecued chicken breasts are great. I really like just barbecuing them. So I'll put chicken breasts on the barbecue, flip them over, like cook them till they're getting close to being done, and then just take a little dish, put some, if you want to use avocado oil, it's a little bit more heat stable, and then just add the spices in there. Just add garlic and salt and pepper and thyme and paprika and rosemary, and then just brush that on the chicken breast at the very end. So delicious. Another thing we really like is just taking the thighs. There's chicken thighs that have the bone out, and just barbecuing those and then brushing them with a little bit of lemon juice and garlic. It's so delicious. And I don't like the fattiness of chicken breasts, so we cook them quite well so that you don't get like the fatty chunks. I don't like that. So that's another good one. And the chicken fajita is just really great. Again, you can do that in your cast iron pan. Just cut up the chicken breast really fine. It goes really fast. Those are fast meals. Just cut up a few chicken breasts really fine, and you either have them, do the spice mix that you have, just put it together maybe the day before, but that only takes 5-10 minutes anyhow. So just let your meat sit in those spices for 15 minutes, half an hour, and then either quickly cook them in the cast iron or else do them in the sheet pan under high heat. And then do the onions. So like what I find is really nice, if you cut up the onions and the peppers and you just squeeze a little bit of lemon juice on that and salt and pepper, that just makes the veggies taste that much better. So it's fine to have a small amount on a large chicken fajita salad, but don't eat tons of peppers because they are higher in natural sugars. And then also you could do chicken breasts, like just quickly cooked, and then use pesto with that. Just make sure that it's like a homemade pesto, which isn't got too many nuts in it, because the nuts can add calories. You can always check. So we have in our health food store, there's a local company that makes a pesto, and it's very, very low carb. It's mostly just basil, garlic, olive oil, and that's delicious with chicken. And you can put that on a salad. You can have that with other stir-fried vegetables. You just have fun with it. Souvlaki is great. And also what I've done is that if, let's say, we didn't have a lot of people around for Thanksgiving or even any other time, but if you can get a turkey breast, and just look at, best recipe for baked turkey breast, so delicious. And you just put the herbs on. It just tastes like Christmas turkey. Just don't overcook the turkey or the chicken breast. Just make sure that you remove it when it's cooked and don't overcook it. And it's so incredibly delicious. We made that for my daughter one time when we were just visiting her. And she's like, this is because we didn't have enough time to do a big turkey. And she absolutely loved it. All right, so talking about pork. Pork is not my favorite. It's not that I'm against it. It's not that, that it's against anything. I just don't love it unless I can't really taste it. So there is a pulled pork recipe that we have that we absolutely love. And again, that is a Traeger recipe that we put it on the Traeger and leave it on there for like pretty much a day. And then you just pull it apart, put fresh lime juice on it, and then also chopped up cilantro in it. And it's delicious. So some people will have it on a bun, but I will have it just on the side with a salad. Going on to satay. I don't know if you've ever had satay before. So these are Indonesian spices. That's something that we absolutely love. Like that's my mom and dad are from Holland. And so my dad did a lot of cooking when we were younger, and he introduced us to a lot of the Indonesian curry spices. You just have to be careful. Like I would avoid soy sauce while you are recovering, but the curries are absolutely fine. They're very anti-inflammatory. And I did mention souvlaki. It could be chicken, it could be pork, it could be beef. As far as fish, it's something we don't eat that regularly because it is getting to be more and more expensive. My favorite would be halibut. Just baking that in the oven would be absolutely delicious, but we haven't had that for years. Cod is nice. Pan-fried cod, just quickly look up a good recipe for cod, garlic again, and just maybe a few different herbs. Delicious. Salmon, if it's on special, I will take it and just put it in the oven, cook it at a little bit of a higher heat because it's usually a fillet. Put a bunch of, again, I have that dill in the freezer, and I will just put a bunch of dill on. I might put a little bit of olive oil on top of that, a little bit of fresh lemon juice, and I put salt and pepper on the fish for sure. When you're eating fish, make sure to take a handful of chlorella tablets because a lot of our fish is contaminated with metals and toxins. So if you take a handful of chlorella tablets before you eat, like maybe 20 to 30 minutes before you eat, then if there is toxins in your fish, then it's going to be bound to the chlorella and it'll carry it out of your body. All right, so that gives you a few different ideas. We don't eat a lot of like shellfish. My husband, it's crazy. Like he just like maybe 3 or 4 years ago, we were at my daughter and son-in-law's and he's a chef. So he cooked crab for us. Like we never do something like that. So we bought crabs, he cooked them. And then my husband got an allergic reaction for the first time. Luckily it wasn't anaphylactic, but he got all these hives all over him. So we haven't done that again. So we don't have a lot of shrimp or crab. The bottom feeders, we will have shrimp. I don't know if my husband should even have shrimp, but I do like shrimp, but we just don't eat it very often. But it would be fine to have some shrimp, or any kind of seafood is totally fine. Just try to switch up the seafood that you're having because some are more toxic than others. So just to finish off here, I'm just going to mention things to avoid. So these are pitfalls, like nut butters would be one. When you're really infested with parasites, I wouldn't eat any nut butters because they're too concentrated with carbohydrates. Sometimes they could add a little bit of sugar in there, which they might not have to put on the label, but the parasites will really be affected by them. Eating too many nuts and seeds. If you're addicted to nuts and seeds, or maybe you don't have enough food prepared and you just keep grabbing handfuls of nuts, you will feel horrible because the parasites will be feasting. And make sure to avoid cooked tomatoes. So tomato is actually a fruit. And when you cook it, it becomes more acidic and it becomes more concentrated. The sugars in it become more concentrated. So it just doesn't work when people are infested with parasites. So avoid the cooked tomatoes until you're well. It's okay to have a couple of slices on a fresh tomato on a very large salad if you tolerate them. Be careful with berries and fruit. The parasites don't care where you get the sugar from, whether it comes from fruit, whether it comes from a cookie. Sugar feeds the parasite. So natural sugar will feed the parasite. So if you can't control yourself with a very, very small serving, just skip it for a little while. You want to start to see that it's working. And the nuts and seeds and the fruit are pitfalls for people. Bacon and sausage, virtually all bacon has sugar in it. Check the ingredients. And if you have a local butcher, sometimes they don't put it on their ingredient list, but they might have some in the ham or in the bacon. I personally don't eat ham. I don't like it. It's not like I don't like ham or I don't like pork. It's just, it would be too sweet for me because they always add sugar to ham. And it's funny, when you get away from sugar, you don't even enjoy it anymore. It's like, ew, that's gross. Like with meat, I don't like that. So be careful with things like bacon, ham, sausage. Very often they're contaminated with starch, fillers, sugar, honey, and all of those things. Very small amounts will trigger the parasites. They're microscopic, many of them, so they don't need a lot of sugar. And just small fluctuations in your blood sugar level is going to change how you feel. Bone broth, be really careful with this. We've seen this many times. So bone broth is super healthy. It's high in collagen and in minerals, but they use bone broth to grow bacteria in labs. So like if you're sick and they're trying to culture to see what you have, what infection you have, they will often use broth in their growing medium. And so when you have, let's say, a lot of Borrelia, that's the bacteria that causes Lyme disease, it loves collagen. So there's this big craze of like, everybody's taking collagen supplements and everybody's drinking bone broth. But if you are out of balance with your microbes, it can make your symptoms way worse. We have seen this firsthand in our students. Like one of our students, she was like symptom free. She did multiple treatment cycles. She was still treating. She wasn't done. And she was running again. And she's like, oh, I've got these organic beef bones and I'm going to make organic bone broth. She started drinking it regularly. And then she started getting neurological symptoms coming back. So she wasn't done treating and it was promoting the infections. And we've seen this multiple times. So if you are having soup, right? It's wintertime and it's really nice to have soup. If you have homemade chicken broth, which I make myself, I keep all of the carcasses. We buy whole chickens because it's cheaper. And then we freeze the carcass. If it has a lot of, like if it was on the Traeger and it's like the skin is burnt up, I don't put that in soup because it would be too strong. But the oven baked chicken carcasses, we keep them. I make on a Saturday, I'll make a big pot of broth. And then I'll freeze it. So if you have that kind of a broth and you have a soup that you made homemade and there's no sugar, there's no fillers, there's no yeast added to it, and you're filling it with a lot of low-carb vegetables, so it's mostly chunky soup with chicken in it or whatever meat, and very little broth, and you have it occasionally and you're improving, that's fine. But if you're having soup every day and you're not improving, get rid of the soup, get rid of the broth, and you might find that that's the one thing that was holding you back. And so with broth, just be very, very careful with broth because it is something that can really hold people back. And if you're having it, let's say a meal, like it would be a side dish. You wouldn't consider having a bowl of soup because you're not having any carbohydrates in it. If you just have one bowl of soup, you'll lose weight. So you could have the bowl of soup, but you could have other food too. And yeah, you have to eat quite a bit and you have to chew your food. No more smoothies because smoothies, when you grind up fruit and vegetables, you are pre-digesting the carbs, the sugars, so your body doesn't even have to do the work. Then when you drink it, your blood sugar goes up. That sugar flies around your body and it feeds the parasites wherever they are, whether they're in your central nervous system or in your blood, and causing vasculitis, or if they're in your organs, or if they're in your gut. It's just feeding the parasites. So we chew our foods and we do not pre-digest sugars to affect our blood sugar level. All right. I think I covered everything. So yeah, and even like juicing vegetables, we don't do that when we're recovering because all these little things, if you do that, you're going to say, Pam, the diet doesn't work, but you're not following it properly. So really important to follow it properly. Again, guacamole and avocado, be careful. If you have 1 or 2 slices of an avocado on a very large plate full of salad, that should be fine. But if you're having like a half an avocado for a meal, that can be, 1 avocado or half an avocado can be almost half of your daily carb intake allowed, and it's way too much. We wouldn't do any intermittent fasting. Very important to skip that while you are recovering, because if you're eating low carb and then you're not eating for long periods of time, you're going to get really weak. You're not going to feel well. Also, don't eat large amounts of meat at one time. When you eat large amounts of meat, if you eat a 10-ounce ribeye steak, then you'll know your blood sugar will go up, and that will feed the parasites throughout your body. So we've seen this in students. They're like, well, I'm not increasing my carbs. I'm just eating more meat. And then their symptoms get worse. And it's like our body can convert meat to glucose, to sugar. So that's why moderate amounts are fine. But if you have a lot of meat, it can affect your blood sugar level, and the parasites love that. Go ahead and type your questions. We will answer your questions. And again, go to livediseasefree.com. Under research, you will see the Live Disease Free Diet Guidelines. You can print off the cheat sheet. You can put it in your kitchen. You can watch the videos there more about the guidelines. I've given you lots of ideas today on what you can eat. And if you really start to focus on getting your carbs lower, and I didn't even talk about the vegetables. Let me just finish with that. So with the vegetables, a lot of times we like to oven roast them, putting some olive oil on them. It could be some Italian seasoning, like just the herbs, whatever herbs, or sometimes just plain. Another nice thing to do is like the zest of a lemon or the zest of an orange. That at the end, like not when you're cooking it, but just if you've oven roasted vegetables, squeezing a little bit of lemon on them, or putting the zest of lemon or lime and some salt, whether it's salt or the herbamare. So asparagus is wonderful, oven roasted, and different other vegetables are. We sometimes just steam our vegetables and put butter on them because we're in a rush. The salads, we talk lots about that, but there's lots of different vegetables that are low carb. Stir frying is wonderful also. So you can see there's a lot of different things you can eat, and I didn't even cover everything, but it gives you lots of options, lots of ideas. This way of eating is really simple. It is delicious. It is very satisfying. It's very quick. So like as long as you just, throw a few things in the oven when you have a little bit of time, and then you have all these different things to work with in the week where you can throw a meal together in less than 30 minutes, and it's a healthy meal. So if you enjoy what I share with you, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe. It really helps us to get the word out. People that follow this diet, they're telling us all the time how life-changing it is for them. We still have to treat the parasites, but it is the first step to recovery. And if you're at that place where you're like, Pam, I totally believe, I've been following you for a while, I believe that I'm dealing with parasites, make sure to watch my masterclass training. Or if you just want to know the steps that we take to recover from parasites, watch my masterclass training, how myself and others are recovering from MS and other chronic diseases. And if you need support, if you don't have a practitioner that has a lot of experience, that's what we do in the program. Next week, I will share the successes because we went way over time. So I hope you have a wonderful week. Take care. Bye-bye for now.